What do we need to look at? Tomorrow, the start of the NHL.
Dun, 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 dun.
And we're going to have Paul Hendrick. Is that correct? He's going
Yeah.
to now.
And he calling from Winnipeg, where the Leafs
Really?
open up against the Jets.
Calling from Winnipeg. It's amazing how that worked in. So, we need.
I didn't make the schedule.
No, I'm just. No. Might have put a couple of bucks on it. How are we looking at the NHL this year, Dave? Because you're going to make your predictions for all the way to the Stanley Cup?
You know what? You know what?
Or just who's going to win divisions?
I'll tell you my 8 playoff teams per conference and how I look at the divisions breaking down. And I'll only do your top 3 plus your wild card. So let's start off with the Western Conference, and Rusty will put this up right away. Western Conference in the Central Division, I have the Dallas Stars actually not only making the playoffs, but winning the Central Division. I love what they have with Radulov now playing first line, and in goal, the big dude himself, who probably will have a Vezina-type season in Ben Bishop. I like the Stars to win the Central. I'm kind of juggling teams here because I don't know who's going to go where, but the order I have it in as of today is I got the Blackhawks in the number 2 spot. I have the Minnesota Wild in the number 3 spot. I have the Predators and Winnipeg Jets as wild card teams. So 5 teams from the Central Division will make the postseason. On the other side, this is a little bit easier for me because I think it's a 2-horse race as far as the Pacific Division is concerned. I got the Oilers to win the Pacific Division. The Ducks will be very, very close and finish second. The Calgary Flames slip into that number 3 spot. So if you're looking at the early, the projections for the postseason, I have the Oilers winning the conference. So the Oilers would open up the playoffs against the Winnipeg Jets. The Dallas Stars would open up the postseason against the Nashville Predators. You have Chicago hosting Minnesota, and the Ducks and the Flames will meet once again this season like they did last year. And hopefully for Flames fans out there, because I love the Flames and I love the Yager signing.
How about you? We never talked about. As soon as I saw that, I was like, "Oh my God,
yeah.
Yager's in Calgary."
Yeah, I would love to see the Flames knock off the Ducks, and I think Mike Smith is going to make a little bit of a difference. But you know what? We'll get to that in April. But
yeah,
right
and
now,
I'd love to go with to Calgary, and I'd love to hang out with Yager, and then we go to these places, and then he gets all these girls, and then the ones he doesn't like, and then we can get them, and all this stuff happens, and then people taking Instagram pictures, and they're going, "Oh my God, how can you do that? You're a married man." I go, "Shut up, leave me alone. I want to live my own life." And then he goes, "Don't worry about that." I go, "You're right." And then we high five, and we get his limousine. That's what I was thinking.
That sounds really good. Go Flames, go! So that's what I look like in the Western Conference, and of course, we have to bring in roast beef on this one for any counter arguments of the Western Conference, because I am ready and I have my bulletproof vest on. Fire away, Rusty Bear.
The first one I'll say, I'm not convinced at Winnipeg in the wild card.
Can we turn that microphone off?
Only because of Steve Mason
What
being
a
the
loser.
starting goalie. If Steve Mason can play like the Steve Mason from 4 or 5 years ago, then Winnipeg's a playoff team.
Remember last year, Steve Mason was behind a Flyers defense. The Jets defense significantly different, much better. But I will give you, the jury is out on Steve Mason, whether or not, I hope it's the Columbus Blue Jacket 10 shutout Steve Mason.
Let me say this about Steve Mason. An absolutely huge wiener. I've seen him in the shower. I was talking to Tommy Heinsohn. He said, "It's so huge, it's an abomination."
So, playoff team, right? Is that what you say, Howard?
Absolutely.
Fire away, Rusty. You're up.
So if Steve Mason can be stats-wise an average goalie in the NHL, I think Winnipeg makes it. If he's below average, they're not going to. Chicago, after losing Nick Hjalmarsson, they lost Artemi Panarin. Yeah, they got Brandon Saad. I think Panarin is a better player than Saad.
Patrick Sharp as well.
Patrick Sharp
Cheap
is
deal.
back, an aging Patrick Sharp, but he's on a cheap contract, so it's not bad. I see Chicago more as a wild card team than as a divisional team because they lost the depth with Hjalmarsson on defense. Seabrook's getting older. He's not that good anymore. Duncan Keith's still Duncan Keith. Past Duncan Keith and Seabrook, they don't have much. They also lost Trevor Van Riemsdyk on the back end. If Chicago makes the playoffs, I see it more as a wild card team instead of a divisional team.
Who replaces these teams? Like, say you said if the Blackhawks don't, or if the Jets
Blackhawks.
don't. What's your replacement team then?
Blackhawks making the wild card. I see Nashville getting the division spot.
Okay.
I think Nashville makes the division spot. Swap Nashville and Chicago. Not sure in what order. Winnipeg, that's a little tougher. I could also see instead of Winnipeg getting that wild
By the
card,
way,
San Jose jumping.
As
into
you're
the wild
rambling
card.
on camera, are we just seeing Dave sitting there? Is that what's happening?
Well,
That's
I'm not really in
Three
the three.
see,
shots.
that would
Three
be yeah.
I'll try and sneak into it.
Hey, get a little this guy, eh? All of a sudden, everything. He starts taking over, says, oh, this guy's no good and everything like that, or this guy's too old, or he can't do it or anything like that. Let me just say something. You're shit, eh? I've seen you play hockey with the little ringette and everything like that, your mom crying and all that, and your brother. You were so bad. Here's a true story. Don't stop me, eh? True story. He was so shitty that his brother took a job over in Switzerland. It's true. True, isn't it? He's a gym teacher over in in Sweden or whatever.
Yeah.
It was some place where they don't try hard. It was one of them places. He had to move because his brother is so terrible. True story.
Pacific Division. What do you like there?
Pacific Division, I can't argue with that. I think those are going to be the top 3 teams. And then if you want to talk about replacing Winnipeg, like if they don't make it, who's the team? I would see San Jose come in as the wild card from the Pacific Division.
Interesting.
They
I thought you were going to say St. Louis because that would be my juggling team if I wasn't sure about something.
See, St. Louis, I'm still not convinced Jake Allen is a standalone great goalie. They've just lost Robbie Fabry for the entire season. That's a big blow. I don't think they're going to be as good as they were last year. And San Jose still got Martin Jones, still got Brent Burns, still got Joe Thornton, Joe Pavelski, Logan Couture. I would find it hard to believe that they don't make the playoffs this year.
And by the way, Mike, speaking of the Pacific Division, I actually, and we don't have it on the screen right now, but I actually have the Golden Knights to finish above the Vancouver Canucks.
Ooh.
And the Colorado Avalanche as far as standings in the entire conference, because I just think that team is better than the garbage that's below them. And
That's
Vancouver, it's a lot of garbage.
Yeah, that's sad. It'll be interesting to watch that team too.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
I think a lot of people are.
Yeah.
All right, what do we got next?
Eastern Conference. I know roast beef is going to start parading around once I say this, but
Here we go.
I have the Toronto Maple Leafs to
Oh.
win the Atlantic Division. So
Woo!
exactly. So I got a tight matchup between Toronto and Tampa Bay for 1 and 2. The Ottawa Senators was my toughest pick because I wasn't sure where to go. I was thinking Canadiens for a little bit. I was thinking Bruins for a bit. I even thought Florida Panthers for a bit. But then I thought, okay, Erik Karlsson's coming back in November, which by Ottawa Senators means late October because he's already skating right now. So I like the Ottawa Senators in the number 3 spot. In the Metropolitan, they supply 5 teams just like the Central Division. In the Western Conference, I got the Penguins winning the division. I got the ever so great during the regular season Washington Capitals coming in second. The Columbus Blue Jackets are going to do a lot better this year, and don't be surprised if they're even a little bit higher than 3rd place. I love the Panarin trade, and offensively speaking, playing on that top line, man, it's going to be a lot of fun being a Blue Jacket fan, if those even exist.
Yeah, because the thing is with the Blue Jackets, and I get it, because they have, you can't say in any world that Columbus is a sexy pick. But I will say that over the last couple of years, there have been people kind of waiting on this,
yes,
one way or the other. So if this is the jump they make, I don't think anyone's going to be surprised, Dave.
Yeah, and it's one of those teams where it's they've been waiting for it. Now, wild card gets a little bit trickier here because you kind of sit there and you go, okay, do I take somebody from the Atlantic? Well, I truly think the New York Rangers are better than most of the teams in the Atlantic from the 4th spot down. So I got the Rangers in there, and I got the surprising Carolina Hurricanes. I look for Scott Darling to actually get his opportunity as a number 1. They have a lot of talent up front and a lot of young talent. If you actually look at that roster, you'll sit there and say, who the hell are these guys? But guess what? These guys are pretty good. I think the Carolina Hurricanes could surprise a lot of people this year and sneak into that postseason, much to the delight of the 4,500 people that will pack that stadium on a nightly basis. So right now, I have the Penguins as the number 1 seed. So the Penguins would open up against Carolina in the 1st round. The Maple Leafs would be the 2nd seed as the division winner and face the Rangers in the 1st round. You'll see Tampa and Ottawa, and the Capitals and the Blue Jackets in the Eastern Conference. I hand it over to roast beef.
Okay, so I'll start with the Atlantic Division.
Okay, just don't be annoying and don't be too long.
Atlantic Division, I have Tampa Bay winning. I have Leafs in 2nd, Tampa Bay winning the Atlantic Division.
I think it's a reverse jinx.
Okay. All right. We know your tricks. Don't worry.
If Tampa can stay healthy, a team with Victor Hedman, Steven Stamkos, and Nikita Kucherov, they're not going to be stopped in this Atlantic division.
What about Austin Matthews?
He's great, but
What about Patrick Marleau?
he's great.
Mitch Marner?
Great too.
Freddie the Average Anderson?
He's great.
Oh, he's great. Oh.
No, I think
a bit of a jump there. I think.
A lot of Hall of Famers on that Leafs team, man.
whole team's going to be inducted.
Oh, man.
Yeah, wow.
Legends Row
First time ever.
Legends Row just became Legends Stadium.
Wow, it's amazing.
No, but I Tampa Bay was my pick to win the Stanley Cup last year, and then injuries got the better of them. So I still think if they stay healthy, they win the Atlantic Division this year. Metropolitan, I have Columbus over Washington. I think losing Marcus Johansson, like that's a big depth loss, like scoring depth loss for Washington. I don't think they'll be as good. They lost Carl Alsner on the back end too, so I think they'll drop a bit. Columbus will be ahead of them. Wild card picks, I don't know. I can't really argue with them. New York still got Henrik Lundqvist. You think he's gonna bottom out at some point, but he keeps proving everyone wrong.
Goals.
And
They just got to get goals.
yeah, and I think Jimmy Vesey will have a big bounce back year. He had all the hype going into last year and only had like 25 points.
I think that was tough on him too, you know.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's just a sophomore jinx or whatever you want to call it, but I know that he is legit a player that's going to play in this league and be significant. I wouldn't base it on last year either.
No, I think he'll have a big bounce back year. Mika Zibanejad, will have I think he'll have a pretty good year for New York. And like I said, Henrik Lundqvist keeps proving everyone wrong. Everyone thinks he's going to slow down a bit as he gets older, but he keeps going. And Carolina, I like their young players like Sebastian Aho, their young defense like Jacob Slavin. And yeah, Scott Darling, I think he'll take the next step towards becoming a starting goaltender. So I don't think I can argue with the two Metropolitan wildcards.
Do you wish that you could like go to Punta Cana or something with Austin Matthews and Marner and be in a hot tub with them? Do you wish that?
Be a pretty fun time.
I was just going to say
Yeah.
something else, but I won't.
What? We just become best friends? Yep.